So this is a stump of a formerly fairly large tree. We were always having to take it a large branch out every year, and it kept growing, and so this is the drastic cut. We cut it at an angle here so that water would shed off of this surface, the cut surface, and now it has begun to sprout out. Now all of these sprouts, of course, are genetically the same as this big tree, but I wanted to use this opportunity to graft a new variety onto this very large root system. So a few weeks ago I put my first graft on here as just a little tiny piece of graftwood that I put on a very young shoot, and I just checked it. It looks like it's taking. There's no new growth, but the little tiny bit of that graftwood is still green, and there's a lot of callousing that's developing between the shoot and the piece of graftwood. I had hoped that it would have at least a little bit of a bud peeking out by this point, but I've decided to show you how I grafted anyway, because I'm really certain that this is a take, even though it's not really visible. It's a new kind of graft that I want to show you. At least it's new to the YouTube videos. It's grafting onto very young shoots, and it's a very successful method when you do it in this particular way. I haven't done all styles of grafting, but for years I was wondering how to take advantage of these young shoots. There's a lot of undifferentiated cells. It makes it very probable that it would be a successful graft, but in the beginning I was trying top cleft grafts, and the graftwood itself would survive, but the young shoot would not. And so of course it would fail eventually because of that. So this is another way that I started grafting, and it was successful. So what I'm going to graft onto this particular stump is Orange Sherbet. It's a newly released variety, very popular. A lot of people are just really wanting to plant this. I want to get the fruit as soon as possible, so this stump and root system will help me do it. What I've done is, Orange Sherbet, I noticed in a lot of these plants, just keeps going straight. And of course, many people want early branching. It makes the tree more compact and easier to get the fruit, and more options for later on. So what I've done is just taken cut the leaves off the first few stems, and then I'm going to cut the scion off right now. This one I could cut even this far up. I'm going to take a little bit larger piece, cut 1/4 inch above the top of this leaf, the top leaf, so that leaf bud can develop. And when your graftwood is ready, these leaf stems just break off very easily. So that's going to be one piece. And then this is another situation. Get this a little closer to you. This particular piece, well, let's see, was I intended to graft last week and didn't get to it, and so it's bursting out with new growth. Not really a problem though, because I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a lot of swelling buds here. So even though most of the energy is going right up to the top, we can cut that off and still have a very active piece of graftwood. So this is going to be our second piece, and again we're going to just I'll just cut this right off. So we cut like 1/4 inch above the top of this leaf so that bud can form. So that's all we're going to need. So these Orange Sherbet plants are going to start branching now that we've cut the top off, and these will be these little tiny scions will be beautiful graftwood for these very young shoots. So, first thing, of course, wrap the graftwood. One piece is going to be plenty for these 2 short pieces for the first stage. Now what I've done also, I noticed that these shoots were forming here, and whenever I thought about it, I'm just going to tear this leaf off. I would do that eventually anyway. I trimmed off competing little shoots. There still are a few coming out, but you want all the energy in this area to go to your project. So even the buds that are forming at the base of this shoot, just take it off. We want all the growth to be coming up the stem. And I did the same thing over on this other one. This is a little bit older. Both of them should work. So I'm just going to put the younger shoot on the younger, I'll put the younger piece of graftwood on the younger shoot. And just want to it's, you know, this of course is very flexible, but you still want to use same principles. I'm going for at least a straight line here and possibly a little bit of a angle. So that's looking good. And I'm going to go just a little bit down from this bud here. I'm not sure if that bud is going to develop or not, but I'll give this little shoot that opportunity. Sometimes it wants to use a lower bud. Most often it's the top bud of a shoot. So that looks like it's at a good stage of whittling. And so what I've had a lot of success with is grafting toward the base of these young shoots. They're very fragile, so if you put it too high up on the shoot, it often will be too much for the shoot. You want to get down close to the source of energy and also not put a strain on this tender growth. So just want to go a little bit longer than the cut surface here, this cut part, and then I'll trim a little bit. Let's see. Okay, right there is the end, and I'll trim a little bit of this side part off because the one side of this graft is shorter. This cut part is shorter than the other cut part. So put that right in and see how it fits. Okay, it looks like it fits well, except for I don't really like this one bump here. Even though this is not matching up to a cut surface, it is interfering with the snug fit. So I think that will do it. Oops, got it in backwards. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so there's my buddy tape. Get my buddy tape out and wrap it. A lot of times with these very tender or grafts on tender places, I only use buddy tape in the beginning. The older graft here, I just recently put a piece of elastic around it. just so that when it starts growing it will not rip off of the shoot. And what I want to do is, when I only use buddy tape, I sort of fold it over so that it's stronger, as I want it to not only protect against moisture loss, but really snug this graft into the shoot. So I'm folding and then also twisting a little bit. It seems like this is a lot easier to work with. I think I'm going to just put a little bit of elastic around that also, just a half a piece, because I'll just wrap it gently though, because you don't want to do a tourniquet on this kind of a graft. You just want to make sure that the contact between the base plant and the graft is secure. So then the other thing that I do is I want this energy to keep flowing up to the leaves, but I don't want the leaves to dominate the growth. So I leave, like 4 to 6 leaves, and also I like to trim these leaves so that they don't require as much energy. So that's that particular graft. I'm going to give it a half of a piece of buddy tape just to protect this elastic again, and we'll check on this in a few weeks. Hopefully it'll have some action. And now I'm going to move over to doing the second graft. Okay, here's our next project. Second shoot is a little bit older. You can see it's starting to turn green down here. I'll just pre-trim some of these leaves. I know I'm going to trim them later, so I might as well do it sooner. There's that big old leaf that could go get trimmed also. You want all the sap to flow, but not to have too much demand on this. Anyway, here's our piece of graftwood. It's a little bit longer than the last one, and it's a little bit older. So I am going to do a more traditional graft. I mean, it's basically the same style, but I'm going to go into this older wood here. It's not very woody, but I think that will work out very well for this particular piece of graftwood. I can already tell that this leaf is in the way, so I'm just going to cut it off right now. Any buds that are coming out of these other places, just take them off with your nail. You don't want it to sprout out anywhere but on this particular piece of graftwood. So, I'm looking at this to see if there's going to be any bumps, interference, and it looks like this is a pretty flat side. So this side will be against the center or toward the center, and then the rest of it will. So anyway, I'll even off the end here. Nice square cut. And just okay, and then this other cut will be a little bit shorter. A lot of times if you do the cut in this type of graft, if you do this outside cut the same length as the inside cut, the top part dies anyway. So why not just do a graft that can heal completely? And so anyway, that's what that looks like. And now make a cut right here in this tree, or make a cut right here in this shoot, and use this curve so hopefully it won't it will rest snug here. So this looks like a good place right here to go in. Okay. Let's see how that fits. That looks good. I'm just going to trim a little bit up from here just so that it rests nicely. It doesn't really, it's longer than I needed, but better, that'll be fine. You don't want to have a little bump that prevents it from resting snug. Okay. Looking good. Okay, we just used a little half piece to get it sort of situated. I'll use an elastic to gently wrap that union, and then we will use another piece of buddy tape to go over the top, not only to seal in the moisture but also to protect the elastic from the sun. They will, especially in the summer, these elastics will degrade pretty quickly, and sometimes more quickly than the graft will heal. So just want to be on the lookout for that. Try and prevent it whenever you can. So I'm going to actually wrap this higher than the cut surface, just so that it helps the piece of graftwood stay in place. I'm not pulling really tightly on here. Oops. That does happen more often than I'd like it to. Okay, just redo it. Yeah, these wrapping in tight places, sometimes you lose your grip. More than once. Okay. Third time's the charm. Okay. So there is that piece of graftwood, nice and secure. And I'll put a piece of buddy tape over the elastic, and also this part of the graftwood was never wrapped, so that will help that particular area too. So stretch and wrap. The buddy tape sticks to itself, but not much else, so you want to wrap it so that it keeps sticking to itself. Okay, so that's the graft done, and the last thing we need to do is cut off these new leaves that are forming. We'll come back and check on that in a few weeks and see how it's doing.